Did you succeed in bringing this performance art into sort of taking serious? Because you always mention that performance art has always been alternative, and I don't want to be alternative anymore.
So we're talking about right now 40 years of career, and when I started, nobody even think it was art form or any kind of art form, except, you know, I started in ex-Yugoslavia, which was like a first woman walking on the moon or something. Nobody even understood that was anything in any connection with any art form. And through this older period, you know, especially in the 70s, end of 70s, all the colleagues, you know, at that time I worked with Ulay, we, you know, just abandoned the performance art, and they start, you know, making the different things like installations, like photographs, like paintings, like a video. It was a big pressure of the market to produce something, and performance is like nothing to be produced. I mean, it's all about memory, and it's such a immaterial form of art. And remember, end of 70s, there was so much of bad performances around. So all the bad performers became bad painters, so it was not so bad. And then somehow territory was completely free. And I remember Ulay and me thinking, but what are we going to do now? And we said, okay, the best thing to do is to go back to nature. So we went to see that we really spent lots of time in nature and came back with the new performance concepts. And somehow I never left this art form. And so many of my colleagues stopped performing for so many different reasons, because it's too difficult, it's too engaging, is really physically demanding, it's because of age limits, because of the sickness, because of all kinds of different reasons. And I was always thinking the performance was kind of left to nobody to really understand what it is. And there were so many artists who really, from young generation, but also people from theater, from film, from industrial design, from the fashion, who just take elements of performance and, you know, recycle them and adapt them to their own media. And nobody was really talking about the originality of the work. If you take piece of music, or if you take piece of the you know, theater or the book, you really pay for the how you call, some kind of you know, how you say, the author rights or something. Performance, like nobody gave a shit. And I really felt always urged that to change that, and I spent so much years doing it. I wanted to really, the performance become not alternative form of art, but become mainstream art, really same the way as a video and photography. And I think that having the retrospective museum, that really happened, because, and especially doing this film, because this film was made to reach very large audience. And this was the purpose, to really audience who never knew what performance, who didn't know even what this media is, actually have access to this and understand in a very different way.
And you also started, like, so in a way you already succeeded in making performance into a real form of art. And this was really happening not only because of the MoMA show, but also because of this documentary. But you're also starting like a sort of performance school. Can you explain a little bit about that?
You know, you always think about your legacy, and many artists made foundations, which actually the kind of aim of foundations is to preserve their own work. But to me, I don't want this to have the foundation to preserve my own work. I think it's not my job. It's job for anybody else who believe in my work. What I wanted to do is to unconditionally give some kind of knowledge and experience to younger generation of artists doing performances, but also create institute where, with the different purposes, you know, the artists can make different works of art. We're all long-durational in the all different categories of performing, like a video, theater, dance, film, even opera, and type of performance I'm doing. And they have to be long-durational, because in my experience, the long-durational work is the most challenging and transforming experience of any other work. So the works have to start 6 hours on in this institute. And as a public, you also have to go through some kind of education. There will be school for the public, how the public should actually see something that is 6 hours long. What public have to do? Nobody ever teach public how to behave, what is the state of mind, what is the way of breathing, what is the position of the body, and so on and so on. So it's like really the kind of unique school that will be of that kind in the world. And the architect that just signed the contract and makes press conference right now, the last months in New York, is Rem Koolhaas, which I think this is one of the really genius of this century.
Okay, thank you. If we go back to the documentary, what probably is interesting for this audience is that there's of course a lot of talk and a lot of images of your history, But there's not so much highlighted about the time you were spending in Amsterdam. And of course, you've been spending many, many years in Amsterdam. And I was interested because, as far as I'm right, you arrived in Amsterdam in 1975. What did you decide to stay in Amsterdam after that? And what did it bring?
It was the only reason somebody can decide to leave the home and go somewhere else is a big love story.
And it was?
I mean, let's keep something little more in a kind of hiding it. You can see in the movie.
Okay.
Let's not specify.
Okay. But was it also because Ulay was already living here in Amsterdam? And
yeah, it was. Oh God, this was, you know, that's very strange thing. I got invitation from the Apple Gallery, which in those days was the first gallery ever to deal with performance art in world, and to come to do the performance program for this with Francis Schwartz, and for the television. And when I got this invitation, I was supposed to come on my birthday here in Holland. And my grandmother, who doesn't know anything what I'm doing and doesn't want to know, she said to me, but everything you get on birthday, it's really important. So I arrived, and the first person I met was Ulay, and he also was doing for the same program, you know, he was doing the performance. And then in the evening, we kind of celebrate that we complete this television program with other artists. And I say, I would like to give everybody a drink because it's my birthday. And then he said, no, I want to give everybody a drink because it's my birthday. I said, don't trust you, prove me. And then he proved me by showing me the diary, you know, from his pocket, which the page of 30 November was taken off. And I have the same thing. I hated my birthday. Every time I would get new diary, I'd take 30 November off. And anyway, that was the beginning.
the beginning.
And then, you know, I have to go back to Yugoslavia. Then I was lovesick. Then we decided to meet in the middle between Prague, between Amsterdam and Belgrade. It was a Prague in Czechoslovakia, and there I was starting this whole work together.
But so, like, after many years you have been living in Amsterdam, you finally left for New York. And what did you decide to finally leave Amsterdam?
You know, Amsterdam I call temporary forever. It was really a wonderful place for me because it's like a center of Europe. But you know, once you make the museums, like we made all museums, almost all museums in Amsterdam, we made the shows everywhere. You kind of get claustrophobic, so you have to expand. And your work is going somewhere else. And so we've been traveling, but I was always coming back to Amsterdam, coming back. And then at one point, I really think that I really wanted to see, you know, what is in this America. Let's go and see. And because in Europe, I almost show everywhere that is possible to show. So going back to New York, I remember I had a really chance to be friends with Susan Sontag the last 4 years of her life. And she told me a very important thing. She said to me, once you live in New York, you can't live anywhere else. And she's really right. It's some kind of energy. It's very nervous energy, but it's a kind of energy that really kind of work with my own energy. And it's been incredible change in my life doing that jump, going to live in New York.
And also in the documentary you mentioned you're doing your artist manifesto. One of the phrases is, of course, an artist should not make themselves into an idol. And of course, going to this American society, which is sort of idol-driven, how do you manage with that?
You know, of course they make you an idol, but this is not the point what they make you, it's the point how you behave and you start believing. The wonderful sentence of Woody Allen, he said, today I'm a star, tomorrow I'm a black hole. And you always have to remember this. And in every you work, you know, the most important is to be humble, to understand that your success, it really depends on so many people working behind you. And that you don't think about yourself, you're an idol. The moment you think about yourself in your idol, your ego become like Himalaya, and this is a huge, actually, obstacle to your work. So that's really a bad thing to do. My director said I have to stay here. Okay, and so we made 700 hours of material, and that he went to to India with me, to Belgrade where I was born, to Montenegro. Even he filmed my aunt for 3 days. She went to hairdresser. She's 86 years old, and she went to see the premiere in Belgrade. And she was not even in one scene. She doesn't talk to me anymore. It's all true. Because it's incredible. There's so much more material that's not in, but that's the
That's for the DVD.
Okay. My aunt doesn't believe anything anyway.
She's in the DVD, I'm telling you.
Okay, we try the best.
She'll be happy. All right, I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you afterwards.